Hello and welcome to this James the Bike Guy, where today we're getting a chance to take a look at the Giant Defy Advanced 1. This is Giant's carbon fiber endurance road bike that offers a heck of a lot of value, in my opinion, for the price that you pay. So in this video, we're going to go into the features and designs of this bike. We're then going to find out exactly what it weighs, and then I'm going to close it out with a comparison of this bike versus the other two big ones that are out on the market. So if this kind of thing is interesting to you, I suggest you stick around to the end and let's check them out together. So beginning the discussion of the Giant Defy, we should talk about what this bike is all about. So Giant has their TCR, which is their performance, lightweight climbing road bike, the race bike for do-it-all performance road bike. And then they have their Propel, which is the more aerodynamic, aero-friendly bike for the flats, for going fast. And that's where this bike comes in. This is the Giant Defy. And what the Defy is it's essentially an endurance road bike, meaning that this bike is designed mostly around long distance, long rides, but it's still very lightweight, and it's going to sprinkle in some comfort and some upright geometry to make it more comfortable than the Propel or the TCR for those longer rides. And in fact, this is the category where most road bikes get sold. Because let's face it, most of us are not necessarily racers looking for the utmost performance, but instead we're trying to find a bike that's going to be able to be comfortable for those long weekend rides with our friends, or something that's going to encourage us to find more miles and be a bit fresher for the next day. So the Advanced in the Defy name means that this is going to be running Giant's advanced grade carbon fiber. Now the neat thing with this carbon is it's going to be some high quality stuff, and in fact you can see the tinted clear coat almost allows you to see a bit of the carbon underneath the paint, which I always love when bike brands do that because you get the chance to see the construction of it. But the advanced grade carbon has all internal cable routing. It makes it look really nice and clean. You're going to have through axles both in the back as well as the front of the bike. It has some neat features such as this drop stay that we'll talk about in a bit. And then up front, it goes to this carbon fiber overdrive steer fork. That's their name for their tapered steer tube to help keep the direction very stiff and, those inputs exacting. But the neat thing with the Defy is if we look at the carbon blades to the fork, you see how they recurve forward just a little bit, or they curve forward, I should say. That allows that the front end is going to be able to have some energy absorption from bumps and potholes that you hit going through the fork. And then the frame kind of comes back across that nice flat top tube on the size medium large, roughly a 56, to the separated top tube from seat stay. And they're doing that because when you remove these two junctions, that's going to help with some of the compliance of that rear wheel trying to come up. These nice, beautifully thin seat stays, and then Giant integrates a defused seat post. So this defused seat post is essentially, it's flat on the back if you take a look, rounded towards the front, and that allows that the seat post can flex back a little bit. This bike, it is a carbon fiber seat post with an alloy head, and that integrates to be on the more comfortable side of things. And something you might like about it, if you're looking for something a bit more simple, is there's no gimmicky kind of things added to the bike. Now, albeit on most bikes, those gimmicky things do work, but they add some weight and some complexity. So it's going to be interesting to see at the end how this compares in weight to the other two big name bikes out there. Now, helping with compliance is going to be, of course, tires, and this bike will fit up to a 700 by 35 millimeter. Now, coming stock on the bike is going to be 32 millimeter tires, which is nice to see, a good size and chunky tire. It does have spots to be able to add in fenders if you wanted to run like a race blade style fender, a spot to be able to do a integrated Bluetooth sensor for speed and cadence. It is a press fit bottom bracket, and I love how the steerer attaches to the stem and has these spacers that kind of makes everything look clean, gives it that little more custom look to it. So that's a look at the frame, and in fact, when we talk about this frame, geometry-wise, being an endurance bike, it's going to be a bit more upright. And that means that your stack on this in a size medium large or 56 is going to come in at 586 millimeters, and then the reach is going to come in at 381. Now, if we compare that to the Trek Domane, the Trek Domane is slightly taller at 591 and slightly shorter at 377, but the Roubaix is going to be much taller at 605 millimeters, while also being longer at 384. So this does a great job of being kind of that slightly more performance-y version with a slightly lower front end to the bike, but middle reach so that it's still comfortable to get out to the handlebars. The Defy Advanced 1, spec-wise, is going to be a mid-level bike. So here we've got Shimano's Ultegra 2x11 speed drivetrain. It's going to then have Giant's contact alloy handlebar and stem. To the back is the Approach Giant saddle, which is a bit of a truncated nose saddle with a nice cutout for relief downstairs. That carbon and aluminum head defused seat post. And that drivetrain down below is going to be operating a Shimano Ultegra RX rear derailleur. Personally, I think this is a nice choice. The RX rear derailleur is a clutched version of the standard Shimano Ultegra derailleur. And on a standard Ultegra derailleur, when you're going down rough roads, the chain can kind of bounce around. It can contact that chainstay, chip up the paint, things like that. We've all heard our bike or somebody else's bike going down a pothole road, rattling about. But what's neat with the RX derailleur is you can flip that up and it turns on a clutch, just like on a mountain bike derailleur. And then the cage is not going to move nearly as much. And you'll notice that that chain can't quite drop down onto the chainstay as much. And that's causing the drivetrain to be a lot quieter. It does create just slightly more load on the shifter, but I think that's a nice trade-off to have, and I love that they're putting that on this endurance bike. You then have an 11 to 34 tooth rear cassette, which is super wide range rear cassette, driven forward to the Shimano RS 510 crankset. The 510 crankset is a non-series crank. Think of this as somewhere around 105 level, maybe slightly nicer, with a 50-34 chainring combination and of course a standard Ultegra derailleur to shift between those gears. So with the 34 up front and the 34 out back, that means you're going to have a 1-to-1 gear ratio, and then of course you've got that 50-11 for the higher speed descents. Slowing the bike down from those descents are some hydraulic 2-piston Ultegra calipers clamping down on 160mm rotors. And then capturing the wheels and tires are the Giant PR2 rims laced up to J-bend through axle hubs. Now these are going to be tubeless ready rims. They are a 22mm width and they're rocking the Giant Fondo 1 tires in a 700 by 32mm. This is a tubeless ready wheel. It comes with tubeless sealant, tubeless ready tires, all set up tubeless from the factory, and should allow you to run slightly lower tire pressures while being confident that you're not going to have flat issues because of the tubeless setup, and should make the bike that much more comfortable. Well, anyways, let's find out what this bike weighs and then come in to talk about how it stacks up to the competition. The Giant Defy 1 in a size 56 is going to come in and weigh 19.52 pounds. So with that, let's talk about where this bike comes in price-wise. So this being the Advanced 1, at least in July of 2022, this bike comes in at $3,650. With that, you've got a carbon fiber frame, a mostly full Ultegra 11-speed drivetrain, and a tubeless ready set of wheels and tires. And if you compare that to the Trek Domane SL6, the most comparable bike in their lineup, that bike comes in at $4,229. It weighs in at 20.5 pounds, so just slightly heavier. And it's rocking a full Ultegra drivetrain with an Ultegra crankset, as well as a spot in the frame for internal frame storage, as well as the ISOSpeed front and rear decoupling for a little extra compliance. Then you've got the Specialized Roubaix. The Roubaix comp comes in at $4,200, rocking the future stem up front for some real suspension in the front end, and then it has a divorced seat tube and top tube junction similar to the Giant for comfort out back. Also a full Ultegra drivetrain. That one comes in with a weight of 19.09 pounds, so ever so slightly lighter than the Giant. So in my opinion, this is a pretty well-spec'd bike for the money. I love the simplicity of it. I love the tire clearance here. You know, the Roubaix is only clearance for 33 millimeters. The Domane, though, does beat it out with 38 millimeter tire clearance. This guy at 35 is sort of a happy medium, and I like how it comes in, of course, at the lowest price. Well, anyways, go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. While you're at it, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and definitely browse the channel to see more videos like this to check out as well.